how do you know whether or not you have emotional intelligence or you don't? And I said, another great question. And I said, most people don't have a lot of it. As I'm finding, just in my little, 4 years of experience in this space, and not any of it, but just have some low areas of emotional intelligence. One of those being self-awareness. So not many people I've read some books, some of the stats say 60 to 70% of people cannot accurately and specifically identify their emotion in any given moment with any kind of accuracy. They may say good or bad or fine, but those are kind of surface level terms and definitions. They can be further broken down into more, deeper, more specific, more accurate emotions. But again, most people are just not that aware. EQ gangsters, what is up? Okay, so just got done with my second jiu-jitsu class back after getting my staples out. I had 4 staples in my head. For those y'all that are following me on Facebook, and I don't know, maybe even Instagram. I don't remember if I posted on Instagram or not, but you guys saw I just had a little cut from headbutting a dude in my jiu-jitsu class. He was going for a move, I was going for a move at the same time. It wasn't intentional, it was an accident. First time it's happened in 4 years. Anyway, second class back, feels amazing to be back. I had to take about a week and a half off, and had the most interesting chat with this young lady at in my jits gym. She's 18 years old. Her dad is amazing. Her stepmom is amazing, just super duper couple. And the dad and his daughter, this 18-year-old, both do jiu-jitsu. He's a higher belt and she's a blue belt. She's been doing it for, a few years and is awesome. And, she had, we've been homies, I've been homies with both of them for, I don't know, maybe a year now, going to this gym. And in fact, her dad is the one who drained my cauliflower ear. He's a super guy. And so anyway, she said, "Hey, Noble, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I increased the capacity of high achievers." And well, first I said, I teach emotional intelligence. And she's like, "Well, so what, what's that?" I've heard you talk about it before, because she listened to, Mentor podcast, episode 4. The John Roy interviewed me on their podcast called the Mentor podcast. And they're both upper belt jiu-jitsu guys. John Roy is a purple belt, John Herrera is a black belt, and they're both incredible jits guys. Well, anyway, she said, "So I heard you talk about it on that episode." Me and my dad listened to that episode, and I still don't have a good understanding like what you do. She's like, "Okay, I remember hearing the term emotional intelligence and stuff, but like, so what do you do?" And so I said, "Well, I increase the capacity of high achievers." And she's like, "Well, what's a high achiever?" And I said, "Well, that's a great question." And so I shared with her my thoughts on what I felt a high achiever is. Someone that wants more to life, that is very driven, that is hungry and growth oriented and trying to become the best, person that they can possibly be. And so she said, "Okay, so how do you increase their capacity?" And I said, another great question. And I said, just the journey of me helping people with their own emotional intelligence and emotional health helps increase their capacity. I said, and I am a perfect example. When I was emotionally clueless, I had a very, very low emotional capacity. And now finally my my capacity has grown tremendously as a result of getting healthier emotionally. And so she's like, okay, so how do you know whether or not you have emotional intelligence or you don't? And I said, another great question. And I said, most people don't have a lot of it. As I'm finding, just in my little 4 years of experience in this space, and not any of it, but just have some low areas of emotional intelligence. One of those being self-awareness. So not many people I've read some books, some of the stats say 60 to 70% of people cannot accurately and specifically identify their emotion in any given moment with any kind of accuracy. They may say good or bad or fine, but those are kind of surface level terms and definitions. They can be further broken down into more, deeper, more specific, more accurate emotions. But again, most people are just not that aware. And so she's like, well, so how can you grow it? How do you get better at it? And I said, another great question, because she's like, I don't want to be emotionally clueless, because I told her, I said, I've been emotionally clueless my whole life, except for the past 3 or 4 years, and I'm still very much on my journey. And I said, man, that's a great question. And I said, one of my big things I've been recommending to people is to develop and adopt and implement an emotional fitness program. I said, just like jiu-jitsu, we can't come to one jiu-jitsu class and expect to have jiu-jitsu down. I'm going to be doing jiu-jitsu as long as I can possibly do it. And I know there'll still be more to learn when I can't roll anymore. And so, emotional health and emotional intelligence is the same way. I said, because not only have most people not gone back to heal past emotional injuries, they're not dealing with, identifying, managing, processing emotional injuries that they get every day. If, like many people are like me, they just stuff and avoid those emotions. And the semi-scary thing is when your only mechanism of dealing with emotions and feelings is stuffing and avoiding, eventually that is going to play out in an unproductive, unhealthy way. And I said, you've probably seen it in many of your friends. I said, probably many of your friends, maybe have keep going into unhealthy or toxic relationships. And I said, there's an emotional reason that they're doing that, and they're probably not aware of what that emotional reason is of why they're continuing to go back into toxic, unhealthy relationships. And so she's like, yeah, I know, folks like that. And so, it was just neat to hear, this young 18-year-old young lady who, was asking these great, insightful questions. And, and ultimately she's like, yeah, I don't want to be emotionally clueless, and I said, no, trust me. I said, girl, if you can learn this now, just like you're doing jiu-jitsu now, if you can start your emotional growth journey now, even at a slow, teeny pace, it doesn't have to be, some fast, hardcore pace, but just at some degree of beginning your emotional growth and emotional fitness journey, it will have massive impacts as you grow, as a lady, and you get married and you start a family and have kids and all this. I said it will be life-changing for you if you start this journey now. And so she said, hey, well, me and my dad got the personality book that you mentioned in episode 4 of the Mentor podcast. So I said, well, you got to take the test. I said, because just that alone, right? Just that alone, knowing someone's personality, are they relationship oriented or are they task oriented? Just knowing that alone. And I said, for me, I can typically tell in 5 to 10 seconds what someone's personality is, at least whether they're task oriented or relationship oriented. And then I can adjust my approach with them to connect with them more effectively if I know they're task-oriented or relationship-oriented. For example, if I know they're relationship-oriented, then I'll spend more time asking them about themselves. How are they doing? Where are they from? What's their background? How's their family? Do they have kids? That kind of stuff. If they're not relationship-oriented, I will stick to trying to connect with them in their job stuff. So, hey, what's your professional background? How long have you been doing that? Where do you work? How do you, tell me about that. What's that job like? So, because that's more task-oriented stuff that task-oriented people, typically don't mind talking about because it's work stuff. And, with task-oriented people, that's kind of their sweet spot. They connect over work and tasks, again, versus relationship-oriented people connect with relationship stuff. So, and I told her, I said, look, just knowing that little thing there, right? And then you can go into further stuff like, okay, are they an internal processor or an external processor? Are they a fast processor or a slow processor? And then she said, another great question. She said, well, can you change? Like, what if I'm one thing, like, do I stay that way my whole life? And I said, again, another great question. The thing that changes the least based on my own personal research and everything, the thing that changes the least over the course of our lifetime is personality. Now, that being said, there are emotionally healthy versions of our personality and there are emotionally unhealthy versions of our personality. So I said, if you had seen me, 3 or 4 years ago prior to my emotional growth journey, yes, I would still be outgoing. Yes, I would still be energetic, but I overwhelmed the majority of people that I connected, that I approached. I just overwhelmed them because I had no awareness. And one of my strengths, if you guys have read Strengths Finder 2.0, one of my top strength is woo, winning others over. I would woo people to death. So every strength, like a personality, can be a weakness if you're not emotionally mature, if you're not self-aware and socially aware, and if you have no self-management tools, then you're going to have, your strengths could actually be weaknesses, and your personality could actually, you could have a lot more, your weaknesses of your personality could be exacerbated because you don't have the coping tools and the awareness and coping tools to apply your strengths and personality in an emotionally healthy way versus in an emotionally needy way. And I said that looks very, very different. The emotionally healthy version of your personality versus an unhealthy version of your personality looks very, very different, even though, again, for me, using me as the example, yes, I'm still outgoing. Yes, I'm still an extrovert, but I'm not emotionally needy and I'm not coming from a place of being a people pleaser addict anymore. So now I'm a more, in control extrovert, I guess would be how I would put it, more emotionally aware extrovert, more socially aware extrovert. Now I have better emotional coping tools and coping mechanisms. Not that I'm perfect, not that I've arrived. I still am absolutely on my emotional growth journey, but I am definitely a much emotionally healthier version of my personality. And so anyway, it was just neat. And I wanted to just share that conversation with you guys because it was just so neat to hear her ask questions and be curious. Because here's the thing, y'all, this is another crazy thing, is many people, one of the other questions she asked, man, what was it? How does someone know if they need to work on this? Was another one of her questions. I'm like, that's money. And I said, I wish more people would ask that. But the reality is that, I told her, I said, just like in jiu-jitsu, I don't know the moves that I don't know, right? I'm not even aware of the moves that I'm not aware of, right? So I said, most people, because this is such a whole nother world that most people don't get taught or trained on, most people don't even know to ask the question. And so, which is, again, why I say so many times, emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally, so that, if for those of us that are more emotionally aware and have more emotional tools and healthier coping mechanisms, we can hopefully share those with, with those around us. So anyway, just wanted to share that conversation with you all. Hopefully you got maybe a takeaway or two, or maybe some questions, just a question thing, right? How many questions do you ask about this? Are you curious? Are you, curious about your own growth, what you know, what you don't know? Are you curious about what you're aware about and what you're not aware of? And what are you curious about is another great question. And how does emotional intelligence impact your curiosity is another awesome question. So anyway, for those of you all that are ready to level up your own emotional fitness program, please check out eqgangster.com and get some more skinny at that site. God bless you guys.